APID, and he is having a kind of expertise in the research, and he's triple gold medalist, right? So we have this opportunity to to gather or to collect the best of the knowledge in particular domain of the planning and the research. Sir, that in particular field of architecture and design, we at the faculty level and at the students level also, we are facing kind of difficulty in research, right? So please, I just request you that in your entire presentation, please throw some light on this particular subject also, right, for the research, because nowadays many of the students are insisting for the same, but they don't get the proper path for the direction we can see. So you please share your experience regarding this. So on the behalf of Ganpat University, Faculty of Architecture, Design and Planning, I welcome you once again, sir. And the rest of the kind of profile or the background and the information about the Professor Bhaskar Bhai will be given away by our own Professor Jalak Shah. So Jalak, it is over to you. Can you please carry on?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Hello, sir. I, Professor Jalak Shah, would like to introduce our eminent speaker, Professor Bhaskar Vijay Kumar Bhatt. Sir, born in 1979 and currently serving as an associate professor at Bhaikaka Center of Human Settlement, APID, Vallabh Vidyanagar, for Masters of Planning. He has received a diploma in civil engineer from TED, Gujarat, Bachelor's in Civil Engineer, Masters of Town and Regional Planning from SVNIT Surat, with meritorious medals and honors. He also obtained MBA Project Management from Sikkim Manipal University. He has worked with and for UNDP India for a national project on disaster management for the area of Vadodara city, the World Bank and organizations of the central government of India. Post-field experience on town planner positions since the year 2011. He has been serving academic institutions and teaches courses in civil engineer as well as PG urban planning. He has been actively associated through extension to his volunteering to professional organization as the Indian Society for Technical Education, the Institute of Urban Transport India, the Institute of Civil Engineers and Architects, Surat, and the Institute of Engineers, South Gujarat Local Center, and so on. He is awarded at several occasions for best of his contribution in these professional organizations and institute. He also is associated with University of West Virginia Injury Control Center as a faculty fellow. At present, he is voluntarily serving as a honorary secretary cum treasurer at IST Gujarat section, honorary treasurer at IUT India, SVNIT regional chapter Gujarat and Rajasthan, being a proud donor, recognized as multiple PHF by Rotary International. He is the president of Rotary Club of Vallabh Vidyanagar for Rotary year 2020-21. He has so far published 80 plus research articles in journals and conferences and technical volumes. He has been honored with 4 best paper awards at international conferences in India and abroad so far, and 1 award at national convention. He has authored 2 chapters in an international collaborative based book publication by Springer Nature. He has guided 32 PG urban planning dissertation, research and 13 undergraduate civil engineering projects groups. He has been declared as a winner in Mapathon 2020 organized jointly by IITB, ISRO, AICTE. He has been providing opportunity of learning geospatial technologies. The coursework offered for GNS remote sensing, GIS statistical, package for further exploration by aspirant for research activities and professional practice. He is pursuing his doctoral research and exploring the relationship among local climate parameters and urbanizations with a status of thesis submitted. He has been contributing open educational research through self-managed learning portal www.bvbud.com. Sir, I would again welcome you on behalf of Ganpat University, and I would like to share your experience with us. Please, sir.
Thank you, Professor Hemant sir and Professor Jalak, for very nicely introducing me. It keeps on motivating me the way I hear some of the way things that I did in past, and then somebody is recalling me. It is a kind of you know way I fall back into the past and then traverse through the incidences that took place, and it helps me in getting back the way we are right now, living this moment, having sort of experiences and building up expectations through exploration, I would say. So also I am very much thankful to my friend come philosopher, Mehul Darshak, professor, who has been with you as a team member. So with that, we'll bring in the screen on sharing mode. I was initially we were having discussion about kind of having a dialogue with the students regarding the urban planning studio that the students are having in this semester, and then the deliberation that we had that become a kind of uh, rather I would say taken a shape of this event that we are having today. So fundamentally, the thought we had in center was to have developing of an understanding regarding the very much notion, fundamental notion about the architecture and urban planning. How does that differ? I would say it is not differing anyway, but they are complementing at many instances of the practice the way we do. And certainly this goes hand in hand, and of course I would say the architecture or maybe civil engineering or maybe the sociology or law, all that sort of graduation level programs will generate sort of disciplinary understanding, and then as a part of exploring further, moving higher level thoughts and thinking ability which becomes developed with the dimension which is added as an urban planning. Now urban planning itself is very wide in terms of its applications that we are going to discuss about today, and this is a kind of line of action, I would say, which will be deliberating over. So a bit about architecture. I, of course, I am civil engineer, but I have made my brother grown up, who is junior to me as an architect and practicing in Surat. And under this teaching, full-time teaching job, I have been uh, discussing with architecture students almost for about 6 years now. So I get with somewhat insights about how and what architecture talks about in a way. Although not being an architect, but I would say I am somewhere in between architecture, engineering, and urban planning. So I see through all these three platforms what things are taken up and what could be the possibility to making it further in terms of creating a better society. So we'll about discuss about the fundamental these two disciplines, and then different parts of role in terms of urban planning, the way it allows us to explore different aspects. Of course, as suggested by Hemant sir, the research becomes very much central component in anything what we do. Even though it is an architecture project, we need to understand the specific requirements, the type of materials that best suitable for certain sort of applications. There are different principles in architecture, but then we need to keep on exploring and perform research activities in terms of satisfying certain needs based on what topic or what project we are working on. So that is one dimension there where we collaborate art and technique of designing, mostly in cases of buildings and sort of landscapes, building could have a different scale altogether, from a residential unit to maybe to a scale of assembly building, or maybe larger than that. So once we do that, the conceptual part is exercised, and then we select on the material with the help of some structural engineering team. We get to get it designed in terms of stability, and we maintain a kind of equilibrium in terms of balancing of everything in certain conditions. So then comes the skills becoming associated with the construction technology, and project management, scheduling, and managing the resources on site. So all that parts I would like, I think the architecture includes, and the practice of architecture is employed to fulfill both practical as well as expressive requirements. At times, we need to understand what actually the client is looking forward to express, where the words are not in support, or maybe there is no document at all. But then we need to identify that very feeling that is expected by the client, and there we have this requirement of the research skill to understand that, and of course aesthetics and utility parts are already there, which we need to take care of. And although these different ends may be distinguished, but they cannot be separated. We cannot put all these things in bits and pieces, or do the compartmentization of different aspects. Everything just go hand in hand, and it is very difficult to actually segregate them or separate it, and it is also a bit difficult to provide weightage to each and every aspect. So what is important, everything is important as far as the success of a project is concerned. So every society, as it has settled in a cluster, or maybe in a form of nomadic way, has certain spatial relationship, if you look at the larger context. And of course it has got relationship with the natural world and other societies that are in surrounding, and the structure they produce reveal very much about their environment, that includes for their climate, the local climate and the weather, and the topographical features, and the environmental part in terms of vegetation cover, or river body or water body of any kind, glaciers, plates, and all. And it gets associated with sort of historical trends, and resulting in sort of cultural practices. And of course there are ceremonies of humankind living together, enjoying in a certain way through different type of celebrations. And of course there is sort of artistic sensibility among the community, and it involves almost all sort of aspects that are in concern with the daily routine life cycle of the people in the society. So the architecture to me, like, includes very much about the individuals, and to an extent it talks about larger part of the society as well. However, when it comes down to the urbanization on and urban planning in particular, it talks more about the development of lands and management of land, maybe at a scale of a city or a society or a region or a nation, or maybe to an extent now we can say up to a global level. The sort of international projects have been taken up. So yeah, it makes sense to have scope being so very vast in terms of spatial spread. Apart from that, there are, we can say, sort of sectors where this sort of urban planning projects can be identified, like for housing or transportation. There are, as we further bifurcate transportation, it would be like for pedestrians, or the non-motorized transportation, or motorized transportation. and so on. Under the motorization, we have seen that railways are there, buses are there, individual vehicles are there. So everything of it will behave in certain manner and will impose certain type of requirement of land for its optimum utilization, and we need to make certain provision for each of them, that we call it as an inclusive planning, taking concern from each and every corner, each and every citizen, making suitable, justifiable, um, reflection in terms of satisfying their needs. Apart from that, there are then activities of tourism that can be a good source of revenue for the local body level as well as the state government level, and also generates revenue at international level. So tourism also is among very important activity. If we get able to generate that part, it helps in leveraging the opportunity to bring in funds from outer places. So that is there, and then utilities and facilities along with services are there, which we can talk about here in terms of not only planning but in terms of their designs as well. uh, and of course, the education, training, and research are very much inherent component in the urban planning. So either in full or in partial, from inception to the completion, there is the role of an urban planner. And I believe that urban planner can get accommodated in any of these actions being performed at any of the level by any of the organizations. So a lot of skills, a lot of patience, and a lot of philosophical thoughts are generated, and yeah, that is how the fraternity works in a way. So as you can see, there is a word cloud at the top right on this slide, where a lot of words are being popped up, which gets correlated with the build of an urban planning professional, and different type of assignments, as you can see in the diagram, at national level, regional level, urban planning, development management, real estate, and advising, arbitration or legal services at times of conflict arises, and especially when the land is in concern, there is this role of arbitration comes into the picture. And research, of course, is one subdomain, and education training is very much required for taking up further, building up newer generations to take up the newer type of challenges as we keep on facing these days. So since 2020 March, I have been going through a lot of deliberations taking place, that under the situation of COVID-19, where physical movements are very much restricted, then what sort of urban planning can offer in terms of keeping welfare of the citizens in a way. But still, I very much believe that we are passing through certain sort of unique experience, and the virus itself, as we have learned about, that is mutating and coming up with newer challenges every now and then, and in different region it is behaving differently. So still we are learning about what way we should reflect in terms of urban planning provisions, the way the actions can be made as a part of proactive approach to have a concern. So the national level, the major role is limited to providing advice to the governments or maybe clients like UNDP or the World Bank, and perform assignments for them, making study for them, generating results, or making cumulative, formulate a cumulative idea about what sort of requirements are there. And of course, there is a large hand of urban planners while the framing of national level policies are taken up, whether it be urbanization policy or urban housing and habitat policy, or urban transportation, or street vendors, or township policies. Likewise, several policies are there. Now, unfortunately, I must admit that the word policy is not legally defined in our country so far. So something is there still missing out in terms of the pieces of knowledge system that we have. But so far, we can say the policy could be a guideline, could be an act, could be a way. I mean, fundamentally, it is the way we behave or we act for certain sort of result, chasing of certain through certain activities. So that makes a little bit hazy in a way that how do we exactly take up the word policy and what is the notion about. So there could be a round of deliberation about the policy itself, and we do have one subject of public policy planning, the way we explore about the constitution was formed. Now constitution of course is an act by which each and every other acts are abiding, and our very much citizenship is assigned by the constitution, and constitution itself is a kind of policy which guides us on almost all of the instances as and when human behavior is concerned in our country. Now we have this very much in writing form, the Constitution of India, whereas if you take up the case with United Kingdom, it doesn't have this constitution in form of a book, in form of a writing, but then the we can say the country has this constitutional provision, like what the people are wanting, and accordingly they form an act about it with the majority of votes received in certain parameters. So it becomes an act and binding to all the citizens, and then it becomes a part of the constitution, uh, which guides for in general practice by the citizens. So when it comes down to the urbanization, this urbanization through the constitution has been assigned as a subject matter to the state governments. That means the subject matter to the state government is the way the state governments are at their liberty to decide upon what way they would want to act or react against the urbanization, if they would like to promote it or demote it. So that remains in the hands of the state governments. Now the state governments, as we have three-tier system, state governments are formed with the electoral process, and electoral process are fundamentally the we can say grouping of the righteous wants of people, and then the state government decides upon what way they are supposed to work further for the betterment of the particular state. So that is there with the with this thing at national planning, as we have come across certain terms as Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission and urban infrastructure development for small and medium towns, or Bharat Nirman, or National Highway Development Project, or integrated housing and services development for poor, or basic services for urban poor, and Shama Prasad Mukherjee urban renewal mission, or smart cities mission, or Swachh Bharat mission. Now all these schemes or programs are nonetheless but the policies of action which asks the city government or the government at city level to act upon under certain framework. As soon as you explore these guidelines, you'll get to know how to take up the projects further in under several sort of subdomains. Let us take, for example, I want to refabricate the water supply scheme in certain part. Then what should be the flow of action? So under JNNURM and UID SSMT, the programs were formulated, the process was defined, and of course, while these are like kind of guiding documents where the technical aspects, the defining criteria or norms are taken a reference from other documents like maybe URDPF, either is Urban Regional and Development Plan Formulation and Implementation Guidelines, or National Building Code, or Central Public Health and Environmental Engineering Organization, or Town and Country Planning Organization. Of course, we have IS codes and Indian Road Congress, which has got a very good level of repository in terms of codes of practices, which allows us to have standardization of certain facilities and the material and the tests that are performed, and we get from larger to a kind of contracted mode, and application is at the ground level, but then we think of a larger domain. I'll get back on that, the macro to micro level, a little after a while. So to once these policies are formulated, they need to have sort of legal support, and legal supports will be through different type of laws. Generally we have been practicing with building bylaws quite often. So these days we have this in prevalent, the comprehensive uh, general development control and regulation. So it has three parts, where one part is talking about the different forms and formal procedures, and then second part is talking about the provisions, actually how much should be the FSI, or what should be the space between two buildings, or what should be the margin and ground coverage. Likewise, sort of parameters are defined in there. And then third part is taking care about the process while the implementation is in progress for the any project which has received an approval for development. So very very thoughtfully these documents are prepared and aiming towards betterment of the society, very much in line with the provisions through the constitution. And of course constitution itself has got several revisions with the passage of time, with the changing requirements of the people, with the changes of in terms of behavior of the people. The amendments or the changes have been proposed and adopted in the constitution. So when we talk about urban planning, the role becomes uh, important at city level at times, or at state level, or at the national level, depending on what aspect is being addressed. There are several planning measures that can be prepared at regional level. A larger part of land parcel, perspective plans having a vision alignment for about 20-25 years down the line, and regional development plans like MMRDA in Mumbai has been developing about their regional planning practices. And the way we have seen the evolution of Mumbai along with Navi Mumbai is all a gift, or I would say a result of the regional sense of development planning. And we in Gujarat do not have any act pertaining to availing us guidelines for preparation of a regional plan, but it do have its own challenges, its own working out in a way that we need to gauge or measure the level of dependencies within a particular region that is delineated or defined as a study area. And there could be rural urban dependency that we need to identify, and then make certain provisions to get it satisfied, rather grow, let it grow in a better manner, with the provision of infrastructure, of course. And we also talk about the disasters, we talk about the environmental concerns at larger level, of course taking care about what natural resources we have. So at most an attempt is made not to disturb the ecosystems as they exist in the haste of getting everything developed around. So it becomes very crucial to have sensitized about these ecological and environmental aspects, the gift of nature. We must conserve, we must preserve. So that must be reflected in terms of the projects where we propose. And there we can see several sectoral plans that can be prepared and are prepared at times, of course at all the times, different parts in Gujarat state as well as at the central level. Sort of sectoral plans are prepared, assigning with certain vision, having certain set of missions to get addressed in line with global guiding forces or guiding parameters like Millennium Development Goal, which has now turned up as sustainable development goals, which talks about all sort of aspects in concern with the evolution of humans. So I'm not reading through these sectoral plans, but at different level, depending on what kind of agenda is to be addressed, different sort of planning is performed. And in the background we have a connection with the national level guidelines to prepare sort of plans and what should be the ideally included components in all these different plans. So if you get back again here, please make a reference to all these web programs and their guidelines, where we can obtain sort of guidelines for preparing and identifying components to be addressed while preparation of this sort of plans. One most important is the URDPFI guidelines, that has a very comprehensive framework suggested, along with norms and standards for providing several type of services in the connection of population. And the population itself is very tricky in a way. We need to make provisions for future where the scenario for today is available, along with some past incidences that has resulted in terms of rising of population. So it becomes very much challenging for a planning professional or person who is involved in urban planning project to anticipate about the future population, how much area is to be covered in terms of residential activities and other activities, by how many number of people. So accordingly we need to plan and provide proactively the provisions for services that will be required after a certain number of years in future. So that is a kind of judgment which is required to be made, and there could be some plus and minus, of course, depending on the way we keep on having the effect of national projects, or maybe the behavior of people in terms of leveraging opportunities as made provision by the state government. Say for example, these days in Gujarat we have this bullet train project coming up, along with dedicated freight corridor, along with the Vadodara Mumbai Expressway. A lot of regional projects are taking up, along with the water supply through Narmada Channel or canal. So these are like large scale projects, regional projects, I would say, and will influence a lot of activities in different parts of the state, I would say. So that sort of projects we need to take care while defining or making provisions or doing the planning, while we think of the particular region. And of course we cannot ignore the economical aspects that are relating, and as well as the socio-cultural aspects, while chalking down or identifying the requirements for making provision for urban planning at a city level or the local level. We can say there could be different type of planning taken up on a timeline. We can say it could be a perspective plan, and then development plan under the provisions of the urban and regional um, development plan act that we have, the URDP, sorry, um, and there could be annual plans which will have budgetary allocations, and every year we check about the progress that has taken in the previous year, and then we carry forward. And this line would be taking care of the development plan which is prepared with a vision of implementation during the next of 10 years. And to attain that, the ward level planning or local area planning, or maybe TP scheme as we have known of, so that needs to be addressed. The zoning in terms of residential activities, or any other sort of commercial or industrial or recreational activities, as they are supposed to be performed in certain part of the study area or the city, needs to be identified, and by and large it is well addressed in the development plan while it is prepared. And there could be specific focused area planning depending on the development of a certain part. We can also have urban forestry master plan, which generally we lake behind. Just yesterday I was having an exam with students of Vadodara, and they came up with certain alarming finding. In 1983 there was a town planning scheme draft, and which got sanctioned and approved later on, finalized in 2010. And then initially the town planning scheme had provision for urban green spaces to an extent of 3 point some percentage, only 3 percentage. By and large we can say 3.5 percentage. And by the time the TP got finalized, and as of today, the green spaces were identified to an extent of less than 1%. So we are completely ignoring the environmental concerns here in the haste of having developed spaces around, or maybe in terms of generating money for balancing or providing infrastructural facility to the citizens in this area. So we need to have sort of rigidity in terms of maintaining forestry, the urban green cover. Even if we talk about the case of Surat, the urban green spaces is less than 3% over the extent of almost 230 square kilometers of area. So as we all know, we are running around with this pandemic, and all this situation is worsening up. But then of course the good quality of air, good quality of the surrounding would inherently generate a very good level of immunity, as it is believed to be like. So we need to maintain the green cover. Of course we do practice about it in our houses by maintaining plants and maintaining sort of small garden in corner of the plot. But at larger level it needs to be addressed more stringently. Then we may have the development on the periphery of the city, which we call a fringe. And here we have the rural urban linkage to get explored about. So like Chandigarh, where the Periphery Regulation Act is in existence, in Gujarat we have CGDCR making certain provisions about the periphery control through the urban development authorities provisions. But then it still needs to be taken care in a better way, as it has been identified. It reminds me a situation in Surat where Punagam, probably you might have heard of, which is located on the eastern part of the city. Up to 2006, the city was not having this area, as a part of the city under the administration of Surat Municipal Corporation. And it was very much alarming. You can see through the analysis that is present on my website about Punagam, where the growth rate under in 2 decades, just 2 decades, crossing about 40,000 percentage. Right, so 100% is fine. 200%. What I am talking is 40,000 percentage. Right, so merely from 8,000 of population, the population jumped within 2 decades to lakhs of people. And over these 20 years, the parts developed in terms of buildings catering needs to the people for making provision for residential activity. And there were no norms followed, the streets were narrow, and no proper, or rather I would say appropriate, infrastructure provision by anyone, because while it was getting emerging, it was in under emerging state. There was no concern from municipal corporation, being it was beyond their administrative control. And just in the vicinity, this entire part got evolved. And then in the year 2006, the state government allocated this entire pocket and gifted it to Surat Municipal Corporation. And it was quite challenging for municipal corporations to have handling of these sort of parts, which are already grown up, and where they want to now provide all sort of services very much equally to other parts in the city where people are having that sort of services. So from where to have the drainage lines to pass through, or from where the water supply lines to be taken up, and where do we construct overhead tanks to make certain local provision of water supply. So all that sort of challenges. And with having narrow streets, and that is a unique challenge in terms of, let us say, take a case of fire hazard has taken up, and we want to send fire boosters to fight this incident. Then it was again more of challenging, rather I would say pathetic condition, where despite having facility, we are not in a position to help the people who are in danger. So periphery regulation plan we can have, and then can have a system of having watch on the development that is taking place, and not forgetting the heritage we have in the city, to have a conservation plan aligned. And at times, once the development has taken place in certain part of the city, it may call for a kind of renewal, where we need to have refurbishment of all sort of services that are provided within the city, and it may call for a kind of upgradation. Now this upgradation could be a part of development agenda under the smart cities, like having support from internet of things kind of operations based in SCADA and all. As a professional, you can see the entire slide, which has different statements, or we can say phrase, which talks about different type of works and activities that an urban planner can do, and can avail these services to clients of any level or any type, whether it's private organization, or maybe it's a government or semi-government organization. So a lot of scope for working is here for urban planner, and the only limit is earmarked by for working is by the planner oneself. So one can go beyond I mean, I would say there are no boundaries at all. So uh, keep on exploring, having a habit of reading and writing, and then exploring through different tools and technology that are becoming available as and when they are. So that makes a person to work on any of the subdomains, and that goes completely beyond any sort of boundaries, I would say. So what we generally do is that it's a kind of to and fro process, and becomes a kind of circular in action when we talk about the micro to micro continuum as a continuous process, like the water keeps on flowing as a continuum, a liquid can flow. So at macro level, we make studies, we identify certain aspects, we have the conduct of study and research programs, and then we obtain certain findings where we have inputs from experts under certain area. Then we generate inferences for the specific study area, and then the tasks are identified in terms of policies formulation, and departments and agencies would be assigned the job to perform, of course with follow of certain legal procedures, and urban local bodies or urban development authorities or even panchayati raj institutions are brought in this group of action. And once the activities are taken up, the feedback is generated. We do have stakeholder participation, and then we update what are the findings, and then we again get back into the studies and findings. So it's a kind of continuous loop, I would say. It keeps on revolving around and around continuously, because the dynamic is very much nature of the urbanization, and the citizens, the way we live, the way we practice, and with the evolution of technology, and to have its advantages, we keep on become striving about having the change. So as we see, the core of the urban planning goes very much toward the social sciences that are focusing on socio-economic characteristics in a way, I would say. And of course, it will have sort of support from urban and community design, where typological connections and building forms are all through the architectural wing, I would say, architecture and design fraternity, where another wing will support from engineering side, where the sustainability, the resilience, or the flexibility in terms of maintaining and developing infrastructure and different components will come into the picture. And side by side, we also would want to have everything to work under computer based networks. So we do have that fraternity support. Now every of the efforts in combination is taken up for creating a better society. So when we talk about urban planning, it's not just one discipline. It has got influences and inferences drawn from several perspectives, and we need to have a team which has got different persons having different sort of skills and expertise or exposure, I would say. It's okay not to have some expertise, but at least one has exposure can be resulting in drawing certain sort of inferences that leads us to create a better society. Once we have things in place, it is very much important to keep on managing these aspects as well, because planning is one part, and then once things are already in operation and places have evolved, we need to make a check and keep on monitoring about proper functioning of everything, and that calls for working out a modality for managing the operations that are taking place. Of course, the real estate management itself is, I would say, a larger subdomain comprising of several activities. We have this RERA Act in application, which talks about a larger number of dwelling units clustered up under one premise. And how do we go forward to develop that sort of parcels? So that is governed through RERA Act these days, and of course, land being a precious resource and have been a reason for several quarrels and fights over the history of human evolution. So it keeps on going on, and there has been a role to play in form of availing advices or performing arbitration among two of or more than two parties, and then provide legal services as far as the land development is concerned. So there is a legal department in corporate offices which is taking care about all these aspects, but where valuation comes into the picture about the land parcels becoming a monetary affair, here comes the role of an urban planner that can take care about making an evaluation about what are the point of or rather I would say aspects of influence regarding uh, the appreciation that a land parcel can get, and that is very much fundamental thought in preparation of a town planning scheme, where we have this notion to be brought in to have envision about the future value of the land parcels once the TP schemes are executed. And then the provision of betterment charges are to be applied based on this uh, proposed appreciation that land parcels are to have. And that calls for the kind of legal action in terms of valuing the uh, price of land parcel in future. So yeah, that is also very very fundamental job a planner can do. And about the research and capacity building, there are fundamental, I would say, two parts. One is the fundamental research that helps in evolution of concepts and theories and models. Now, these models could be of social behavior, economical, activities. It could be related to weather. It could be related to growth of certain parcels of land in terms of we can employ the techniques of cellular automata models or the genetic algorithm sort of programming tools can be used to make prediction how the city is expected to grow. So modeling of an urban center itself calls and can be called as a fundamental research. However, when we make an attempt to model the growth of the city area, then there are several parameters that comes into the picture that connects the sociology, ecology, environment, economics, law, and then heritage aspects or historical events that has taken place, and then culture of the particular society, and there could be communities within city, right? So how do they behave with each other, and whether there is a practice of collaborative actions or not. So all those sort of aspects we need to make study of when we talk about attempting a kind of research activity under this urban planning affairs. And there could be applied research that are generally problems faced by professionals in field, like say for example there is a problem in terms of having appropriate water supply at certain distance, after certain distance from the elevated reservoirs or the water tanks as we call it. So that goes into hydraulics and resolving it through modeling dynamics of the flow, and with the help of sort of software tools we can do that, like water gems and SewerCADs and SewerGem sort of tools are there. And say for example transportation, where Transcad and other tools are there, where we can resolve sort of congestions taking place on certain parts of the city, and we can check about the level of pollution being emitted from the vehicles. The pollution could be of air in nature, or maybe by the noise emitted through vehicles movement, all sort of things. So those are all like under the applied research. And either of these research, when we talk about, very much inherently and importantly, we must have the fundamental understanding about statistics. So when we acquire information, this information can be either in qualitative aspects or quantitative aspects. Like what I am talking today is all the qualitative part, and I'm not mentioning any numbers here. If I would be mentioning numbers, let's say for example, the way we are having the participants in this room, so let's say 10 people are there or 20 people are there, and then 20 people, if I am asking one question and give these questions answer in yes or no, at the end what I can have the answers like x number of people answered yes, y number of people answered y, and y number of people answered no, right? So x and y are two set of people having certain values associated, and once we have these values in form of numbers, we are already in the statistics. And when I get to make sort of prediction in future, I am already talking about probability. So those parts we need to understand to an extent. Not everything is required, but then how the questions are to be formulated, and how we can keep the flow of questions to be answered by a respondent, and what should be the answer that will be expected at our end. And once this answer is known at our end, we should be able to make it related with sort of finding at in the background, which gives us some direction about defining the requirement or identifying sort of area where certain efforts are possible to be made. So uh, research in a way very much talks and brings in statistics, the scientific way of formulating a questionnaire, which has a logical order, along with certain rules we need to follow in terms of principle that has been applied in carrying out statistical inquiry. So like say for example, we have given feedback several number of times at several locations, and that feedback is normally in, let us say, grade this service or on a scale of 1 2 3 4 5. So 5 numbers is a 5 point Likert scale as it is called. And once we have the responses received in terms of 1 2 3 4 5, either of them, we apply the first hand the summation of how many numbers are received, and then under what category on 1 to 5 scale the answers are getting clustered, and then we get to correlate it with other answers that people have responded. So there we have another technique for that. And then sort of operations will pop up as soon as we float inquiry about sort of aspects in form of responses through questionnaire, and then whom I am supposed to ask questions to. So depending on that, there is this study area, how many people are there as a total population within the study area. And there are techniques that can derive the size of sample. Now I am not supposed to ask, let us say 5,000 people are there in my study area. I'm not going to ask each and everyone the same questions. So I need to make the size of respondents restricted, and for that also there are several models, sort of mathematical models, which talks about probabilistic approach. And we can say that this, let's say out of 5,000, I have posed the questions to about, let us say, 45 respondents. So 45 is a derived size by using certain, formula based probabilistic model. And that 45 number of respondents are representing entire of these 5,000, persons. So when I need to have that sort of judgment in my analysis to be brought in, then I need sort of, statistical principle based application of models. And yeah, once I have followed certain method, it gets validated in a way to have, develop the understanding based on the findings, and then it doesn't become challengeable. Otherwise, randomly when we talk about, let us say, how many samples should I take, or how many persons should I have an interview with, so let us take 50, let us take 100. No, it doesn't make sense that way, just for the sake of having, sort of inquiry imposed. But to have sort of methodological approach will make it more validated in a way, and then we can do make identification of findings out of the responses, and then we may chalk out for further planning and designing activity. And while framing of this questionnaire, generally we have the notions like the basic profile of the respondent, like age and the gender, and then annual income, and then family size, and then sort of, profiling is to be done. And then certain specific questions, like say for example, I am talking about transportation related activities, then I will look into what sort of trips are generated, at what time these trips are generated, what vehicles are being used, for how much time the travel is taking place from one point to the other point, like origin to destination, and all that sort of parts will come into the picture. Then I may go for talking about some new proposed activity. Let's say for example, I am proposing for uh, public bike cycling, PBS we can say, public bike sharing project. Then I'll talk about how much money they are willing to pay for the newer service that is probably going to be introduced. So willingness to pay is a notion, I would say, kind of approach we will have, defining on the future activities to have, pursued by individuals. And then if my sample size, if the number of respondents are well defined, then I can say that these respondents are appropriately, representing the entire mass, and I can take a decision about making further investment. So that sort of aspects be in there. Then questions on natural features, or environmental concerns, or ecological aspects, that also could be popped up depending on the type of inquiry we are making. And of course, when we discuss about the facilities and quality of life of economically weaker section, we got to learn more about their status of education, or the facilities that they avail for health, maintaining the health, and the day-to-day economic activities. All that sort of aspects come into the picture when we talk about the economic or weaker section. And of course, as urban planners, to keep on participating and keep on delivering the sessions in terms of dissemination of the knowledge in the workshops or talks, or by modes of seminars, or mass open online courses, or conducting vocational schools, or short-term training programs and conferences or symposiums. All that sort of activities, keep on allowing the interaction among more number of people. And with the way we be able to extrovert in a way, if we get able to become extrovert, then we initiate a dialogue with people around, and we get to know about perceptions that different people have, and that helps us in building a mindset at our end, so that we can think about futuristic requirements and making satisfaction of these futuristic requirements by what sort of solutions that can the technology avail to us. So meeting people is very much essential, and keep on discussing about, specific aspect that are in concern. related to different services, or maybe related to certain planning provisions in future, or revealing their existing situation and condition. So with sitting idle in offices and browsing through books and records is not going to help at all the times to a larger extent. But as and when we talk about urban planning, it is all about going out from the office, making reconnaissance, having transit walks. We do have that. Transit walks are very much inherent part in RSPs, or the support endeavors. As and when every semester we have trips where we go to some place and then study the different parts as per the curricular requirement. So those are like things which we need to practice as and when we talk about urban planning. And of course, at that time we have this questionnaire with us, and we keep on asking questions, we keep on conducting interviews, we do photograph, we do capture videography, and all sort of things get accumulated at our end, and then we start thinking. So that is becoming a very much inevitable job, to keep on thinking about how do we make a better stand or better services for the citizens, or what should be the appropriate way of dealing in something. So it gets connected with sort of philosophical aspects that an urban planner has. So yeah, and then at last I would also would mention to have ethical practices which are like, I would say, sacred responsibilities, irrespective of whatever religion we believe in. We need to be sacred in a way, and the profession is very much pious in a way that primarily it serves the public interest and seek for social justice and equity without any discrimination, and achieve high standards of professional proficiency and knowledge, and promoting of excellence in professional outputs. And of course, we have our heritage and natural and built environment gifted to our generation, and primarily our duty is to conserve them and preserve them, so that next of future generations would have the benefit to have these things in presence. At times I wonder that in the duration of, let's say, 1950 to 1980, in that 30 years duration, we have lost a lot of this natural and built environment which was prevailing in the cities, in urban centers since many years. And somehow, in the haste of growing up under the name of modern buildings, we got lost with not only the sciences that were followed in ancient build-ups, but also we lost with all these sort of values that were associated with buildings of those sort of. Now we look forward to create ways and means to have water conservation through artificial rainwater harvesting, but since many years in our places, in our very much in our houses, we had this in inbuilt facility to conserve rainwater, store it in an underground tank, and then make utilization of this water during next course of 2 years down the line. So in any case of drought like situation, this water would allow us to have our routine maintained. And somehow we got lost with that, and today we are talking about rainwater harvesting, storing this water by various ways and means. And yeah, that is how. So we need to have a kind of interrogation among ourselves for the way we are practicing and we are evolving. So and then we can make a better judgment about what we can do over a period of time. So there are some principles. I'll share this presentation with all of you, and these principles are there, which talks about independent professional judgment, to act fearlessly and impartially with competence. Of course, at times it becomes, to act fearlessly. So dada ban ke ghumenge, nahi. So not just like that, but there needs to be these different qualities to get associated. Having impartiality, and not only that, competence is required. Competence is different type of skills, and of course with honesty, integrity, the truthfulness, that is very much important in all sort of professional matters. whether it's behavior, whether it's dialogue or communication, everywhere this part needs to be reflected as an integral quality of the profession, and different from accepting work for a fee below standards, right? So just for the sake of having competitive environment and to fetch a job, we must not behave like that, accepting work for a fee that is below standard. We keep on making a lot of efforts in terms of our own evolution, whether it's architecture, urban planning, civil engineering, or any other discipline. We have invested our time, and that becomes very much crucial because not everyone does that. And please, we need to have it invested well so that we value our own self, and then we can make certain stand for the payoffs as we get upon making provision of services. So uh, those are like that. And should you have any questions, let us discuss now, or we can make use of the window in the chat box. If there are concerns, if any, would like to discuss about, the floor I think is now open for a while. And that was all from my side. Over to the moderators of the event to take up further as need be.
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you so much for this enlightening presentation and to make our student aware about the vast scope of urban planning and of course the responsibility as an urban planner. Thank you so much, sir. Once again, I am thanking you in behalf of Ganpati University. And now this forum is open for the question answering thing. So students from participant, if anyone has any question, please feel free to ask or you can write in the chat box.
It's not only about the questions, there could be sort of concerns or sort of behavior that you might have seen or come across that we can make part of discussion. It's not all the time we are very much crucial, curious to have questions filled up in our bags.
Definitely, definitely. The forum is open for the
Yes,
discussion. Any kind of a discussion.
any sort of points that you would like to talk about in relevance, of course, to the discussions we had today.
Yeah, of course.
I think there is something in the question answer. I'll stop presenting here.
Sir, so there is a one question. How India is missing upon the urban planning above other countries? What exactly we look for a better version of India in urban way? That is for from Anjali.
Yeah. Hello, Anjali. See, there are several words you have used. One is urban planning. Another is something that is missing. Then there is a mention of countries above other countries. So I hope you are making a reference to European countries or the Western countries, or I would say developed nations, right? So see, understand the very fundamental notion of development. The development is not only the part where we earn a lot of money. It's not only about earning money, but you might have come across a term called Human Development Index, HDI. So the urbanization, the way we are practicing, what we are making is the generation of lot of pressure on natural resources. And the way we, it is the moral duty of each and every citizen to act wisely as far as the utilization of natural resources are concerned, whether it is water, whether it is the land parcels, or anything that is a natural gift. So this natural resources, and simultaneously we have the there is this demand generating mass in terms of population. So making a match between the demand and the natural resources the way we have available, So here we make an attempt to, creation of infrastructure to bridge the gap, allowing the natural resource to get to the citizens by means of maybe by laying of pipelines or by creating corridors or different sort of, different infrastructure facility and components are there that we make provision for. So in other countries, if you are having a mention uh, from European nations, they follow certain practices in terms of their behavior, and those behavior is very much inherently backed up with the way word we call discipline. So self discipline is very much obtained in these countries, because of which there is a consumptive use of these natural resources, which in result turns up in lot of saving in terms of expenditure that keeps on taking place while making provision of these facilities, and then these savings are allowing for reinvestment of this money or these monetary resources in availing different sort of facilities. So that cycle is very much initiated from the user's end. So unless we ourselves, each and every citizen is self-disciplinarily following these practices, which we call a better practice or better, behavior, we will keep on losing a lot of monetary resources on providing the same thing which is already available, and will not be able to go forward in a way. So a better version is not only about the bridges or the roads. We have world class infrastructure, of course, uh, but the way we use it, I think that makes the very notion about missing, which we can see. We do have urban design components very well reflected in terms of built up spaces like around rivers or maybe lakes or gardens, or even on the streets. We do have these furniture, the elements, each and everything is well defined in certain parts. But to scale it up or making it reach to a wider mass of people having spread across the entire city, it will call for investment, and that investment is going to be very much easily available by means of savings if we are able to make. But every now and then we always keep on thinking, say for example, while we are wasting water while brushing our teeth, we'll say, what happens if one person is doing like that? So yeah, that's a very small gesture, but as we think of that, this water, if I am wasting 20 liters or maybe 50 liters of water, then this water is available in my home, right on the top, and this tap, when I am wasting it, to reach to this point, there has been spending of lot of money, and there has been investment in terms of laying of pipelines, construction of elevated reservoirs or water tanks, and then water treatment plants, and then people are hired to manage and make up, maintaining of these plants. So a lot of entire system is working in behind. So uh, in response to your point, to better version of India and urban way, urbanization has got its own very much peculiar, aspects concern, where we can see the problems or issues very much being common among all the cities. You have traffic jams, you have lost quality of air, you have less of water resources, you have polluted land parcels, you have congestion all around in terms of built up spaces, you have less number of trees. So once we get rid of all these aspects, probably we are already there where you are intending us to be standing, like in a better version, I would say. So there are norms and guidelines, of course, on documentation part. In terms of making provisions, we are never lagging behind. But as far as it comes down to the behavior of every individual and acting as a mass, something is going wrong there, I feel. So it's not just the money which we do not have. We do have a lot of money which we do have. Government since 1990, we have opened the doors of foreign direct investment. So people beyond India are also very much willing to invest funds in India to carry out certain activities or construction of certain projects of different nature. But then people at the end, we need to upgrade ourselves, I believe. And yeah, we do have people with us, the technocrats who has imbibed knowledge about technological advancement, how the system can get established, can get work. We have 24 by 7 water supply and sewer network systems. We have internet based or internet of things based, demonstrated version of services. So in parts we do have these things implemented, but if you want to take it on a larger scale, we need to change by ourselves in the way we practice. Say for example, the BRTS in Ahmedabad, it was identified to get replicated from the Colombian model, and we had very much this place constructed right within the core part of a city. But then there was a grudge among people. There was a resistance from within the society that the BRT corridor is consuming valuable road space where we do not get enough space to travel by our own vehicle. Now, perception about the services is becoming very much, individual or subjective, which makes us to counter, or we can say sum up as a good service being provided or something which is wrapped up like wastage of something, some resources. So it depends on what perception we have, and that perception is definitely based on what the way we practice, and the practices are very much has a reflection of the discipline the way we do. So I think when we will get able to change ourselves to even these days, you check for the way the guidelines of the central government as are assigned. मास्क पहनो, social distance रखो, भीड़ में मत जाओ. How much people do follow it? I could see number of marriages are taking place. I'm not against marriages to take place, but I'm against where 200, 300, 400 people get accumulated and then keep on dancing for the sake of marriage. So that is why we are, not matching up with the way government thinks and the way the global thoughts are prevailing. So once we get, accommodate ourselves, update us in a way, I think we are already developed. As such, see, with the grace of God, I could meet you all through this channel today. We have got laptop, we have got internet, we have got power supply, we have got mobile phone with earphones. So not everyone has got this. You can make an evaluation on the part like how many countries where people do have these facilities. So we are already developed, but we are still lagging behind with the behavioral aspect that the way we practice, I would say. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, so I think there are no further questions. If there are any concerns, please do email me, or maybe one can send a WhatsApp message to me. I'll share this presentation with you all. So there are this information about making a communication with me. You may have noted it down that this is my email ID and the cell phone number is there. I do have my profile on Telegram and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and of course that my website bvbud.com is there as a part of keeping open to sort of communications if you would want to have. Yeah, suggest some good books to read on. So, what topic exactly you would like to read about? Suggest me the topics, because to what sort of discipline you would like to read about. There are fundamentally, I would say, read Constitution of India. Number one, get to learn about the fundamental rights and fundamental provisions in terms of duties that we are supposed to perform. And yeah, these guidelines, if you would like to go through, the URDPFI guidelines are very good to read through and to understand about the insights, the way we deal with urbanization. It is earlier the version was called as Urban Development Formulation and Plan and Implementation Guideline, UDPFI. But the recent version published in 2015, which talks about region also. There are two volumes of this guideline, and believe me, for an urban planning student, they are like very much religious books, I would say. So a very holistic approach is discussed about urbanization and rather I would say human settlements, and all sort of aspects are covered up, not only with conceptual thoughts and definitions, but also in terms of making provision for each of these sort of aspects. A very 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 comprehensive way the URDPFI guidelines are prepared.
Hello. Tilak,
Yes, sir.
there is no question, so we can conclude.
Yes. Yeah.
So, thank you so much, sir. And once again, we are thanks from Ganpat University on behalf of Institute of Architecture and Design. So, thank you for a very good presentation on that urbanization topic. So, thank you. We our Indian sir has their email ID and the contact number. If student has any concern, they can direct contact. Or and sir also says that they will share. He will share his PPT to us, so student can be taken notes on that.
Sure,
Okay, sir.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very much. And in this situation, please take care about yourself and family members. Be safe and healthy at all times. Yeah, thank you very much. I am very much thankful to the organizers, the Faculty of Architecture at Garpat University, for availing me this opportunity to have kind of sharing of the understanding with the students. Yeah, so once again, thank you, and I think I can bid a goodbye for the while now, and with the hope to catch you back soon in future. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Definitely, sir. Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye. Sir.
Bye. Bye, sir. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm ending this meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
all of you
Thank you.
once again.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye, sir.
Bye.